And I was just looking at her like, Lord, you orchestrated this because, hey guys.
Welcome back
to the You're Not Crazy podcast.
Or maybe you are, but you're in good company.
You are in great company. Well, anyway, guys, one of our most recent episodes, you've seen it already. We talked about pet peeves and fighting words.
Yes.
And so Anna brought up, she's like, why don't we talk about the words that drive us, that motivate us? Such a great uplifting episode. What are some words or what are things that motivate you and drive you?
I think I've realized that I am very much a words of affirmation person. I want the affirming part, not like you're pretty or I like your outfit. Those things are nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like wonderful. But for me, I like words that are affirming to who I am as a person.
More like validating words.
Yes. So I'm more validation than affirmation, if that makes sense. I like the affirmation, like, man, I really appreciate you. Like, I care about you. Like, those things do matter to me, but I need validation more than anything. And that's a conversation that I've, not really recently, but I've had with my husband. When I say recently, probably in the last 2 years, it's something we've talked about because I have had to, of course you take like the 5 love languages and stuff. And I think we were challenged to do that one time in a group we were in or something.
Probably.
I can't remember what group it was, but I remember like us being challenged to do that or whatever. And consistently, words of affirmation have always been like number one. Like always number one. And gift giving is normally close by, but it's always gifts that are meaningful. Yes, like a cute bag or a nice shirt is nice, but if you bought me that bag because you knew that I needed it, that means more to me than anything. So I don't care if it's a Kate Spade. I mean, that's nice, but like if it's just something that I need it, it's not necessarily like if it's expensive or whatever. It's just that it was thoughtful. I'm more of a thoughtful person. I'm more of a index card, sweet note left on the windshield type person. Like that to me.
That's funny because I feel like when we probably within the past 2 years of us getting closer, I feel like I was doing that type of stuff for you, but I didn't know it was your love language. I was just doing what I felt. That's hilarious that you say that because I think I'm like, that's funny because for a while I was like, I don't know what Anna's love language is. I don't know what it is. That's funny because words of affirmation and gifts are on the low end of mine. Mine is acts of service and quality time. They're like most of the time they score the same number, which is funny. Here lately, I've been needing. I think words of validation need to be a love language by itself because affirmation and validation is a little different, and
especially on who it's coming from.
I think in seasons of life, your love languages can change.
Oh, mine have definitely changed.
Because I was going to ask you, do you feel like that validation is needed now more than it was before?
Absolutely.
I think so too, because I was telling Cody's love language is, one of his love languages is words of affirmation, and what else for most men? Physical touch. Those are usually their first top 2. Most, but not all. Some men have different ones, but those are like common amongst men. But he was like, okay. And I'm like, yeah, that's weird. So I think I'm going to retake the test because I don't need quality time as much with friendship as I did before. I still need it with my husband for sure. I also think there should be love languages of friendship, love language
Which I think there is now.
I think it is, might be one now.
I think they have a book.
Because I mean, it can coincide. I mean, you love how you love regardless. Right. I don't love my husband in the same capacity that I love you, but the way I show love is still the same. So it makes sense, but whatever. I would say things that drive me right now is validation. Validation and support. Those are the things. So for me, I think to hear someone say, I see you, like I see what you're doing. Like, as a matter of fact, I just got a comment under my Instagram, one of my Instagram posts. And the girl said, I've been watching you for a while. And she said, I just love how relatable, I think she said something like how relatable I am and how I'm just a ball of energy and just she pretty much was just describing what I've been trying to portray as an influencer on Instagram. And I needed that comment today. Like I needed it today. And so I realized very quickly that when you're in a deficit, because that's what I feel like I've been going through right now. I'm in a deficit because I feel over the past few months I've been pouring out. Literally, a day does not go by where Holy Spirit does not remind me to text someone and validate them and confirm them, check on them. And I keep saying, Lord, you got me doing this, but I need that. And it's not for me sounding selfish. I'm like, Lord, I want somebody to check on me. I want somebody to ask me how I'm doing. I want someone to say, I see how hard you're working. I see what you're doing. And the Lord hasn't allowed that for a reason. He's stretching me in this area. He's maturing me because he wants me to find validation in him. And it's not to say that it's not okay to get validation from other people. That's absolutely, God will send people to validate you when you need it.
But it's where you're looking for it.
Where are you looking for it and why you're looking for it. And for me, it's because of this insecurity, this seed that the enemy has planted that started off as a child. It's a root there. I was actually talking about it with my therapist. A root there that says, you're not good enough. Nobody cares about you. You're not worthy. You don't matter. I've dealt with that a lot as a child. I was bullied as a child. And not only was I bullied, but I remember specific memories I have where people literally would purposely exclude me or ignore me. To this day, I struggle as a grown 33-year-old woman. I struggle with feeling like somebody's ignoring me. And so I have to always filter that through all that trauma to say, Tamara, it could be they just didn't see your message. Or Tam, maybe they responded in their head. Or Tam, maybe they plan on responding to you later. Or maybe they don't have a response right now. Give them a moment. And you can tell when somebody's genuinely ignoring you versus, because if I send a follow-up text and they don't respond to that either, okay, you probably ignoring me. But if I send up a follow-up, oh, I'm so sorry, I thought I'd text you back. Because I have been guilty of that. I'll respond to a text message in my head so quick and baby be so confident that I responded and then go back on my phone and be like, oh shoot, I never
or had it typed up and realized you never hit send. Yeah.
All of that. For me, I feel like the validation is important. It's an important piece in general. Like in any type of relationship, people need to know where they stand with you. And when people have to question that, it can decline the drive. And I know for me, feeling supported. Right now, you and I both have multiple endeavors. We have a business together. We have this podcast together. When you look around and you don't feel supported by those around you, it's like, oh, am I doing something wrong? Do they not like what I'm doing? But then when they do support, it makes you it drives you to go forward and say, okay. Even when people say, hey, I can't donate right now, or hey, I'm in a place, I'm not on social media, so I can't share your stuff, but I just want you to know that I see you. I want you to know that I see you, man. You're doing great things. It's not always about the monetary donation or the share of the post. Sometimes I just need to know that you see and you care and you acknowledge, because a lot of times people who don't feel supported, they drop dreams and goals. If they're not secure enough in who they are, they can walk away from opportunities because they didn't feel like the people around them supported. And a lot of times people do support you. They just don't think I should tell that person. Their mind, they're like, oh man, she's doing big things.
But they don't ever verbalize it, so then you never know.
And that's why the Lord has had me, he's put me in the place. He's like, the things that you aren't getting, I'm making you do it for other people. And I'm like, but why?
He does that. He makes us almost focus on others so he can fix us while we're but it makes sense, because when you go in and get a procedure done or get surgery done, especially if it's a serious surgery, they're going to put you to sleep so you can be focused on that, so they can do what they need to do. But if you're wide awake and then you feel something and you move and shift, that could be, you know what I'm saying? So he's probably just like, I need you to stay asleep.
And that reminded me of something you just said, because sometimes God will take you through something so that you can be the better. And when you watch someone else experience, you can help them.
When I tell you that is the most aggravating tactic, I hate that. Like that literally grinds my gears. In those moments where you're going through, you feel, and I guess it's on purpose, I'm guessing. Mm-hmm. You feel so isolated.
Yeah.
And I remember one day, I play out arguments in my mind. A lot of times I never have the conversation. I play it out in my mind, and then I kind of almost go through why a certain response that they could give would bother me. Does that make sense? That's real extra. But like, I'll think of a possible response, and then if I feel aggravated by that response, then I have to feel, okay, why does that aggravate me? Because I am not a very good in the moment person. I always live by, I wish I would have thought of that in the midst of the conversation, or I wish I would have thought to say that, because it just doesn't come to my mind, because I need time to process, like think through all of that to come up with a response. But most times that's like the next day, or like 2 hours after we've had the conversation, which in some ways has saved certain conversations, because I probably needed to think through it so I can respond calmly and not just go off. But I was playing out a conversation in my mind, and I remember being like, God, I would never respond or do this to them, but they'll never experience what I'm experiencing now, because I wouldn't allow them to. I would show up for them in that way, and they're not showing up for me. I wouldn't have said that, and they said that to me. They're never, because sometimes you almost be like, man, I can't wait till you go through this and see what I'm going through. But then on the other side, I'm like, you're not going to have to feel that, because you're going to have somebody who understands what you're going through. So when you go through it, you're not going to experience what I'm having to experience right now, which pisses me off even more, because now I'm just like, I feel like I have to go through all the hard stuff for somebody else to have a more peaceful transition. And that right there,
it's annoying.
That's the part that I'm just like, I don't need to be stretched no more. Let me get my elasticity up before you stretch me again, because that right there, I cannot.
And it's funny because, but it reminded me, I think I shared with you this, but a few weeks ago, I was in the hospital because I was having contractions, and we thought a little boy was trying to come on. And while I was in there, one of the nurses, she was just so incredibly sweet and accommodating. And she kept asking me, are you comfortable? Are you okay? You sure you don't need another pillow? You sure you don't need another blanket? And at first I was like, I'm okay. But eventually I was like, I think I need another pillow, and I do think I need a blanket. And so she was like, I kept asking you, she said, because I know these beds are not comfortable, because I was not in a traditional hospital bed. I was in a stretcher.
Yes.
Because in triage, you just they got you there to see what's going on before it decide if they're going to admit you or not. And so I'm sitting there in this bed, and I think she saw, because I'm like hooked up to all this stuff. The baby's being monitored.
And you're literally on your back, which is the worst position to be in.
So I'm just sitting there like this. And so she told me, she said, the reason why I kept asking you, she said, is because she said she had a nurse one time that was aggravated because one of their pregnant patients came in and was complaining about how uncomfortable the bed was, and was asking for stuff to comfort. And the nurse was getting aggravated with her, and she looked at her and she said, have you ever laid in one of those beds? And she was like, no. She said, well, I have. She said, we were slow one night, and so I got in there and was just kind of resting. She said, and those beds are uncomfortable. I understand what they're going through. She said, I'm not pregnant. She said, imagine being pregnant, having contractions, uncomfortable, your nerves are up in arms, and you're in this uncomfortable bed.
That's literally just the width of your body.
Literally. So. And when she said that, that's what reminded me what we were just talking about. She had to experience that in order to make the stay she knew that at some point I was going to be like, this is uncomfortable. And I'm the type of person, I naturally try to accommodate people that aren't even asking for accommodation. I just do it. Like, I'm like, well, I don't want to bother, that's just how I am. I got to get better at that. But that's just, I will be uncomfortable so someone else can be comfortable. And that's something that I'm working on. But I will naturally just be like, no, I don't want to bother them. They're already busy with other patients. So I won't say anything. And then also, with me not wanting to say anything, I also have a really high pain tolerance. So I could withstand some stuff for a little while. And after a while, I'm like, all right. And so when she asked me for the third time, do you want another pillow? I said, yes, ma'am. And so I said that to say sometimes He will take you through something because he knows that your life not only is an example and a witness to someone else, but you are going to be in a situation where you're going to have to show empathy and compassion to someone. And unfortunately, everybody is not capable of doing that. And so it is frustrating because majority of people are too selfish. Some people are ignorant of it. Some people are unaware. Some people are
ignorant in a way to where they're unaware.
Yeah,
like
unaware,
they don't
like
know, not
oblivious to it. I mean, some are.
Well, some are, but yes.
But I said that to say it is frustrating sometimes when you're looking around in your circle and you're like, why am I the only one? Why I feel like I'm the only one? Or why does it feel like I'm always? And the Lord is like, you don't know what I got them always doing. I got you always doing this, but you don't know what I got them doing. Always. You know?
And that's just that's who he is. You know, like I'm sure, you know, the disciples and all of the different people in the Bible, I'm sure they were going through things like, God, why do you have me going through this or whatever, but not knowing, and some probably knowing, but not realizing in that moment what their test was and their testimony, how it was going to save millions of people from having to go through, you know, repeat a lot of those different things, or at least have a guide of how to move through those. But it's still frustrating. It's aggravating. It's really hard. It's really hard. But I think when we were talking about love languages, I think one thing that that my husband and I were talking about before too, is how you give love may not be how that person receives love. So you also have to figure that out too, because sometimes the way that I give love is not always the way that I receive it. Now, in my case, it is, but in some ways, the way that I give love, a lot of times it's going to be more quality time and more acts of service. But that's not how I feel loved, if that makes sense. And I think some of that just has to do with just the space that I'm in right now. That's what I'm able to do. There's certain things that I'm just not able to do. So it's easier for me to be like, I might not be able to do this, that, and the other, but I can show up. You know what I mean? Right. Or I can help you do something, you know? But I think that definitely is something, it's definitely a hard spot. But what keeps me going is definitely when I do hear those words of validation and I feel seen. And when I take a moment to actually see the things that I've achieved or see my children and like think about where they were before and where they are now. Even if it's just, they used to have tantrums about this, but now they're able to vocalize it to me instead of having a tantrum. Or this used to be something that they would, you know, be scared about or get really upset about. And now they're able to help someone else to work through like those type of things. It makes me feel like I'm teaching them something beneficial is happening, you know? So those are definitely, I would say, things that help drive me. I have to work on positive self-talk more than anything. That's really, and I think it's a validation thing.
Positive self-talk is very difficult. It's difficult,
especially when you're a critical person.
When you're critical and when you're hard on yourself and you're a perfectionist. And we both are both of those, all of those things. I think one of the things you were saying is key, and I think Cody and I've had the same conversation, is two things. How you give love may not be how you receive it, depending on the season you are. Because right now, how I give love is how I receive it as well. And one of them, acts of service, I give and receive it that way. But the quality time, I receive it from my husband, but I don't necessarily need it from anybody else right now, if that makes sense. But that's just the season of life I'm in. But also, how you give love may not be how your partner or the person you're in relationship with receives love, right? So you got to know that too. I know that for Cody, quality time is not top on his list, and neither is acts of service. But if I look at him and say, babe, you look really handsome today, that's going to fill his meter up for at least 2 or 3 days. Or if I just simply touch him on his knee, because physical touch is not always sexual, you know, or just brush by him and be like, hey, babe, you know, that is enough for him. And but I don't show love that way. I have to intentionally wire myself
to be like, because in some ways that's their way of validation. And I think all of us are probably in some way seeking validation in some type of way. And or to just be seen. And so you touching his leg or brushing by him makes him not feel invisible in that moment. Or like my husband is definitely more like, I don't think words of affirmation is not his top thing either.
It's like he be glazed over when you compliment. Oh, thanks.
Yes.
And I do too. I'll be real glazed over. I'm like, oh, thank you.
That's not his thing, but definitely acts of service
absolutely
is one of his book. And it for him, acts of service is like little things that show like that he's seen, and that like he's the one that gets up early. He's the early riser. I am not.
So is Cody. Cody's definitely the early riser.
Yeah. But so he'll already be up, so he fixes breakfast in the morning during the week. If I do that on the weekend so he doesn't have to, or if I'm like, hey, like you go do whatever, like I'll take it. That to him is like, oh, she understands. Or because he already know me waking up in the morning on a Monday, it's just not happening. And I've attempted, but that's not my strong suit. I realize that, and that's okay. We have learned our strength. But in other ways, if it's like I can tell that he needs a minute, or he's got phone calls and all this kind of stuff, then I'm just like, you go to the back and handle this. I'll handle the zoo that is our home right now. And, trade off, or like do little things like that he sees like, oh, babe, I went ahead and filled up your water bottle. You don't have to do that. And before I leave, I lay the kids' clothes out and do all that. Now, some of that is me because I'm very picky. But for him, that's instead of me fussing about it, I just be like, oh, I just laid them some clothes out. He's like, oh. It's definitely important to not only know how you receive love, but know how you give love out. And is that the way that your friend or partner or whatever, is that how they receive love, that how they feel love? Because if not, you're doing all this stuff, and it's not that it doesn't matter, but it kind of don't. Like it doesn't matter in the way that you think it does.
And now you're triggered and you're upset and you are offended because they didn't acknowledge what you perceived as I gave love. And so that's why you got to get on one page. But that's important when you talk about what drives you, because you have to have those conversations, not just with your spouse, but with your friends, with your coworkers. Because at the end of the day, in order for relationship, people hear relationship, they automatically assume romantic. But whatever relationship you're in order for it to flourish, you have to have a common understanding. And I think it's important that we know what drives us, because you can either put yourself in a situation where that happens. If you know you need community, then you join a mom group, or you join a support group, or you join a book club, or whatever. If you're a guy and you might join a gun range club, or I don't know. I'm not trying to be super superficial with what I'm saying, but
finding other guys that want to work out the way that you like to work out, or
something like that, workout group or whatever.
Bible study,
a group of barbers. If you're a barber, y'all get together, whatever. Entrepreneurs, whatever. If you know that you are one that is driven by competition, friendly competition, you might get a part of a women's competition sports group, or whatever the case may be. For me being driven by validation, there are situations I may put myself in, or I may ask a question. I may simply ask, how do you feel about me? And that's hard. That's really, really hard to do, because
I'm not asking that.
No, I don't. I don't ask those questions. I might ask my husband.
Yes.
But I know how he feel about me, but that's hard. And my therapist has told me, if you're questioning if that person sees you the same way that you see them, just simply ask them. And she's like, I know it sounds simple, but I know it sounds easier said than done, but sometimes you just got to get it from the source, because your mind and your brain and your insecurities will tell you stuff that's not true. When you ask, I'll be completely transparent. When Anna and I have always been friends, but here over the past 3 years, we've gotten a lot closer. And I often ask myself, does she care about me like how I care about her? My therapist, one time she was just like, why don't you just ask her? And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not asking her. I'm looking at her like, okay, girl. But in my head, I'm like, I'm not going to ask her that. And then Cody brought it to my attention. He said, babe, I don't know that you have to ask because her actions are showing you. But at the time, I needed to hear. Mm-hmm. And so eventually a conversation,
that does not come.
It don't come out your mouth. It don't come out your mouth. But it did one day. I don't know why you said it, but you were like, Tam, you said something. And I was just looking at her like, Lord, you orchestrated this, because it's not in Anna's nature to be like, you really mean a lot to me. Like, if it has to be like,
you really do.
It has to be an emotional moment. Like, we're at a bridal shower and everybody's giving their things. I do it because it's not a thing I do either. I do it when Holy Spirit tells me. The Holy Spirit be like, you need to tell Anna that you love her. You need to tell her that she's doing a great job. And I'm like, okay, I will. Yeah. Because naturally, we're just doing our thing.
My way of doing that is showing up or like doing things. Like, that's how I show my appreciation, because I don't know. And that's weird. I don't know why, because I feel like I am a very loving person. I just don't verbalize it very well. And that's probably from insecurity of like not knowing how they're going to respond.
Be like, why are you getting like...
Yes.
People are weird. People are really weird. And just so you know, Anna literally, before we filmed this, she's been here folding clothes and getting baby stuff together and putting cribs on sheets and sheets on crib. It's okay. Putting stuff on the baby crib. And so she shows up, but she's not going to say, I'm here because I love you and I support you and I'm here. She's just I'm here.
I really do have to get better about that. I know that that's something that I have to get better about. And I think my husband gets it more because that's my safe place. Yeah. But I've had people even deny that they knew me. You know what I mean? Or when you are the girl who I would call him and he was my crush. And that was the part that hurt. But I was his computer lab girlfriend. That was it. We would hold hands up under the table at the computer lab, and that was it. But outside of that, once we walked out that door, once that bell rang, like, he didn't speak to me. Okay. So when you have stuff like that happen, I'm like, oh, I'm good on that. Thanks.
Or for me, I've always been a super open book. I meet you, I click with you, I'm immediately, oh, you're my friend. And when people take advantage of that or tell you you're weird, why are you clingy? Why are you like that? You shut down. And for me, that's why I stopped doing it, because I'm like, I'm not finna let nobody know what they mean to me, because
until I know how I mean to them first.
Is it safe here first?
Yes.
Then I'll spoon feed you and be like, yeah, you mean a lot to me. Because I may feel it. I may be feeling it for a while, and I will self-deny it and be like, no, it's not that deep. We just cool.
Same.
And then eventually the Lord be like,
no, it's deep, sis.
It's deep. It literally took my therapist. She was like, she literally just called me out one day. I was like, I just really want like best friend like that. I was just talking and she was like, because my therapist is hilarious. Her face is, she says, it sounds like you're describing Anna. And I said, and I literally was like, and I still was denying it because I was like, no, because I don't know how she feels. And
I had the same kind of conversation with mine. So that's why I'm chuckling.
She said, and Cody called me out until he was like, babe, what's the big deal? And I was like, because like, I don't know. Like, I'm like trying to rationalize it.
It's so weird. I had the same conversation with my therapist too. And I'm like, I don't know. And I told her, I said, I'm just scared. I'm scared. She was like, what exactly are you scared of? And I'm like, well, we're already too close. I said, what if something happens and we run a business together, we go to church together, our kids love each other, our husbands are friends, like that, then it's going to make it awkward. I was like, and I just rather it be like, that is my good sis.
And it's so easy to say that. Yes. Because once you put a title on it, then it's like,
now I have to show up and I have to be open. Now I gotta, and I'm like, I don't like having deep conversations with people. I don't even like having deep conversations with my husband, but I know that it's needed and necessary And in the moment where I don't want to have it and I feel extremely uncomfortable, I know it's necessary. And it's my husband. He's a safe place. And I'm not saying that, I don't want to sound like everybody's husband, I understand, may not be their safe place. And I understand that I am very blessed to have that. But even in those moments, it can still be uncomfortable with him being my safe place. He hasn't given me a reason to feel like I can't be open with him. And it still is hard with him too. I mean, it's definitely hard. A deep root for me. I completely get it.
But I think we also have experience because we also have our other best friends that we've been friends with for years, which we all know. We all in the same circle, so it's not like your best friend, somebody I ain't never met, you know, whatever. Yes. Like, I love your best friend.
Yes,
like, that's my
pumpkin.
I
love yours. Yes,
it's just whatever. Yes. But even still, I don't go around saying, and it's my bestie. I know in my mind, oh yeah, we good. Like, that's my best friend. That's my sis. But it's not even something I have to parade around and say, oh, bestie, because at the end of the day, the function is more important than the title. Oh, my God. That'll preach. The function is more important than the title.
Because a lot of times people don't function properly in their title anyways.
Or they'll give you the title and don't.
And you be like, and some people are functioning in the wrong title. There are some people who are your best friends that really just need to be your acquaintance. It needs to be your good sis.
Evaluate your titles. Evaluate your titles.
Please do.
I'm telling you, because sometimes you are offended. Preach, Holy Ghost, up in here. You are offended with people that you've given a title or you've allowed to inherit a title
that's
never meant to function in that. And now you offended because this person, Lord, I'm talking to myself. I'm literally talking to myself.
That's how he do us.
You have allowed people to take a title and take on a title that have not functioned in that title for years, or have never functioned in that title.
And that's not their call.
And you're offended with them because they claim to be this. If I go into a doctor's office and their name is Dr. So-and-so, and they come in the room and they have no idea what they're doing, I'm going to feel some type of way.
Yes, I'm going to be offended.
Because the title is not matching.
It has to match. It has to match. And I think that's probably why it is so difficult, because when you are given a title, now you have to function as that. And that can be overwhelming. I know it was overwhelming for me, becoming a wife and understanding what that meant, and then learning even more of what that meant. I felt overwhelmed because I don't think I'm prepared to meet that. And so a lot of times we do put people in places that they just do not belong. And I think also...
You freeing me in here on today, Lord Jesus.
Free. I hope it's everyone else out there. I hope that it is touching you as well, because it really is detrimental to your life. If you have the wrong people in the wrong places speaking to you in your most vulnerable spots, what you're doing is they are now sowing seeds of discord into your life. And what's happening is, as they're sowing those in, you're bringing that in and allowing someone who means well to now water it. But now what's coming out of that is not the fruit that you wanted.
Pass the offering plate. Thank you, Lord. Go ahead.
But it really is important. I think that's why friendships and marriages are very important, because if you don't have the right friends, they're not the right friends. They can literally have you going in the complete opposite direction of what you should be. And your spouse, you know how they say that, like, the woman is the neck, the man is the head. And I it's not that I don't agree with that, but there are times where I'm having to be the head and he's going to be the neck, or I'm having to be the foot and he's having to be the knee.
Like, well, he the neck and the head.
Yeah, because I can.
I can be the nose.
Yes, I can smell and make sure that everything. I can be the mouth and make sure that things that need to be done are verbalized. But there's nothing physically that I can do. So I think even as your spouse, that is so important, because there are going to be times where y'all are going to have to take on different roles in different spots, and it might not be that person's strength, but there's going to be moments where y'all have to literally be one in that. Yes, y'all are two individuals, but y'all are having to function in one position, if that makes sense. And so that's very important, and your friends are very important. But there are times where we may talk to one another about disagreements or things that that our husbands have done or said or didn't do or whatever that we're aggravated about. If you're not a good friend, you can be like, girl, because I don't even understand because I just think, and instead of just listening and being like,
girl, I get it.
You know what I mean? But not, that's such a sacred spot. And even when it comes to friends, like, not competing, knowing your spot. It's okay if you're not the person that they call for everything. Be the one, but when they do call for you, show up in the way that you know to show up. You got to know your place, and you got to be able to function properly in your place. Yep. And I think that is so important. And for some people, their life depends on having the right people in the right place. Because if not, some of us would not be here if we didn't have the right. Yes, if we didn't have the right people in the right place, some of us would not be here.
I know it. I knowed it. Because I'm trying to tell you,
it's hard. It's very hard. I do want to validate you, though.
Oh, Lord.
You do mean so much to me. You really do. That's why I choose to show up, because this is not easy for me at all. I feel like it's like friendship for me feels like I am standing on the edge of a cliff. Like, it's scary. I hate getting emotional, but it's very scary. So I appreciate you for making this a lot easier and safe, because I don't do this, and I don't. It's not because I'm like a rude or stale or hard person, but I don't do this because I have been done that I literally thought were my family. That after one thing, I have not spoken to them since senior year of high school. Right. And they literally would stay at my house. Right. Like, we were like this. Yeah. And so it's hard. It's hard because I feel like one thing happened and they had a whole other group of people looking at me as if I was the bad person just because I did not agree with something that they were doing. And I'm sure that there's another side to the story because once again, I haven't spoken to them, so I don't know. Right. And was I a perfect friend? No, I did some stupid stuff because I was insecure. No, it's not that I was just a perfect friend and didn't deserve whatever, which that's a whole nother conversation about what you deserve anyways. But at the same time, I felt like we were stronger than that. And there's so many things in life that I saw us doing that we don't, when I tell you we don't even speak, we don't follow each other on social media.
And that's heartbreaking.
That's really hard because that person, when you stay at someone's house multiple times out of the week, either or, when y'all go to school together, when y'all's parents are close, when you're literally like another sibling of that person. And at the time, my brother was in college, so that was my only sibling. I didn't have anybody else. We were doing the same things. We were a part of all the same clubs. We were both cheerleaders at one time. We literally were like this. And I don't even speak to them. And even just seeing their account pop up on Instagram the other day, because I added someone else that we graduated, seeing their picture pop up, my stomach literally was in knots. Because I was just like, that was supposed to be my person. Like she was supposed to be there when I got married, you know? And so that's why this is so hard for me, because I have had so many people that in my eyes didn't value me enough to have a conversation, to just say, I don't agree, or that hurt my feelings or whatever. But instead I become the villain in their story. And I'm just like, I never got a chance to even explain myself. How is a high schooler going to truly explain themselves? We're stupid, immature, and the frontal parts of our brains are not even fully developed, right? But even then, I just wanted to have that opportunity and I never got it. That's why I say, like, you really do mean a lot to me, because I don't do this. I don't do this. I don't have friends. And I know that sounds really bad, but I'm being like 1,000% serious. I do not have friends. I have people who I love. I have people who I'm close to. I do not have friends. Yeah. I've had some people show me and literally give me their behind to kiss in situations. And at that moment, I cut them off. And they probably don't even know that they were cut off. Mm-hmm. And they probably don't even know that I literally just recently let them back in. And they have no idea. Like, they have no idea. And I love them dearly. Mm-hmm. I love them to pieces. And I will be there for them every step of the way. But they are not my friends. Mm-hmm. I do not trust them with my life. Mm-hmm. I do not trust them with my inner thoughts. And for my deepest insecurities, I do not trust them. I just want you to know that I am blessed that we have grown to this place, because I really needed it, Tam. I really did.
Oh, now I'm about to cry. Jesus. I was
really
keeping
did.
it together. I was
it's
being
okay.
a G.
This is the second freaking episode. So at least give me half of one. Might as well.
Let me tell you, while you were talking, I was like, the reason why my tears are not falling is because I have spent years crying over those. I mean, I have spent years. And when I tell you, I know exactly where you're coming from, because I have, Jesus Christ.
You might as well just join the party. I'm glad I didn't do a full face of makeup, because this white shirt would be red.
I ain't do no makeup.
It'd be red, brown.
Carson already told me I don't have no eyebrows, so there we are. But I don't know that I have any more tears to give to it, because I spent nights. I have the same thing you just said. I had 2 or 3 of those situations happen to me, where people I grew up with, in one situation, and you become a villain in their story. And for me, a lot of times people took advantage of my good heart. And when I didn't show up the way they were used to me showing up, then I became the bad person. Or, in some situations, I dealt with jealousy. And I'm like, and for a long time, it was hard for me to embrace that thought, because that made me feel like I was being arrogant. But to acknowledge the fact that, okay, that's jealousy. It just is what it is. And I experienced a very similar, if not almost identical to what you just described. And I would get that same, I would see their social media pop up, gut wrenching. And these are people that I had a relationship with. So I could see their social media and I could see what was going on. And they were ignoring me, didn't give me a chance to explain, made assumptions.
Well, I was blocked. There's that.
I've been blocked too. And so I'm like, man. But that didn't happen to me until later in life. It didn't happen in high school. I mean, I had some traumatic stuff happen in high school. Trust me. I had to blatantly end a friendship in high school with a very toxic individual.
Yeah, same.
But it didn't happen to me till later in life. And so now this Tamara has been apprehensive of friendship. Tamara 7 years ago was very, that's my friend, and I used to get criticized for that. You got too many friends. Why are these people your friends? Because I really thought they were my friends.
Right.
I get it. And I appreciate you saying that, because it is hard. And I think the reason why I was so afraid of, and we made a post, check out our Instagram, follow us on Instagram, YNC_podcast. We're Not Crazy Podcast. Look it up on Instagram.
Yes.
But we had made a reel the other day.
I don't look like this.
Talking about
pictures,
this.
By the way.
Well, I do. So
no, you don't.
But
you don't.
I made this particular reel talking about how 2 wounded individuals decided to take a chance. And the reason why that meant something to me was because it took effort on both parts. Because had I been the one just putting in effort, or had you been the one just putting in effort, it wouldn't have worked. Mm-mm. It had to be both of us to make and I don't think we realized we were making the conscious decision until we looked up one day and was like, oh, we're close. And for me, I had those same apprehensions, like, we're doing a business together. Like, my concern was, are we only close because we're in business together? Mm-hmm. And my therapist said, so what? The business brought y'all closer. Yeah. She was like, what does that have to do with anything? I'm like, but I want her to be my friend because she wants to be my friend. You want to feel
genuine and not out of obligation.
And so, and I think too, I know me. And when I love hard. And when I give to people, I give my all. And I know that my giving sometimes can be overwhelming. because I give my all. And it is scary because, like you said, for you to open up and verbally talk to someone and tell them what they mean to you, you don't know how they're going to receive it. I don't know how they're going to receive my giving. And I don't, and it scares me because I don't want to do this stuff and then they reject it, because then I'm going to feel rejected and I'm going to feel like I'm doing too much, and I'm going to feel like they think I'm trying to buy their love. Because I've had people say that, and I'm not trying to buy your love. This is just who I am. If I'm in the store and I see something on sale and it's in your size, I'm getting it. That's just who I am. That I've always been like that. And so, and I get it from my auntie. My auntie's like that. She be buying stuff for people. I saw these shoes. I got them for, but it was a deep, deep insecurity of mine. And I think the first time I decided to do something like that for you, I was terrified. I was like, Lord, I didn't even ask you. I just did it. And I could tell it was hard for you to receive it, but I could also tell you appreciated it. And you did not make me feel bad for doing it. You were just like, Tam, you didn't have to do that. And I'm like, I know I did it, but here you go. Really quick exchange. All right, bye. Let's go, because it was scary for me, And yes. I think when pride is in the way too, sometimes it can be hard. And I appreciate you for accepting how I show love, because some people took it as you're doing too much. And that's just who I am. If doing too much is who I am, I'm doing too much.
And here we are.
I'm doing too much. And like I said, I appreciate you saying that. I think it's important that you know what you mean to people. And I knew before you said it that I meant something to you, because I know you well enough to know you wouldn't be over here away from your family past the time that you said you want to leave. You know what I'm saying? If I did not mean anything to you. And I laughed because Cody was like, he asked me something. He said, did you ask Anna? Oh, Sunday. He said, did you ask Anna to come sit next to you? I said, no, I just looked up. And then when I literally started crying, Anna came and I was like, because I haven't been at work. So we see each other every single day. So she came and I was like, hi. And she was like, what's wrong? I was like, I just really missed you. She started laughing. She was like, I missed you too. It's okay. I was like, why am I crying? I'm like, wiping my tears. I was like, you look so cute. And I really missed you. And she was like, okay, Tim. And I'm just sitting there like big old whale, like, oh no. It's funny. And this episode has gotten extremely long. But it's necessary. And I have to give a shout out to our audience, like our subscribers. Y'all are the best, man. Y'all be hyping us up. When the next episode, I'm like, oh snap. My bad. It's coming.
Just bear with us, because this is literally a whole parental team here.
It is. My poor husband is editing for like four channels. So
that's what I'm saying. The team are all parents.
And then
other jobs.
Anna literally has to get with her husband and match their schedules, because we have to map out time. And when we record like multiple episodes.
I feel like it's like doing gymnastics, and I am not a gymnast. When we try to match our schedules, and I just be like, Lord Jesus. And
Anna called me. She's like, hey, I'm going to be coming later. I was like, oh, sounds great. I was definitely in the bed. And I told her, I was like, well, I smell like a farm. I'm going to go take a shower, and then definitely smell like Old McDonald. But fresh and clean now. But
that's all that matters.
I thank you all for watching. First of all, thank you all for your suggestions in the comment section. We are going to put those out, and we want to thank you all for just commenting. Comment below. Let us know what drives you, what makes you keep going. And
we encourage you to also check your people who are closest to you. Make sure that the people that you have in those spots are able to function in that. It'll save both of y'all the headache. It may be that you put them in a spot that they're not ready for, and you never know. They may be able to vocalize, I just can't be that for you right now. But check your area, and just make sure that you also are able to function in the places that people have put you in, because you may need to have a conversation and let them know, I can't show up for you in that way.
Here's how I can show up. But
yes. I hope that this episode was beneficial for you.
It was for us.
Clearly.
I was just thinking, I need to call her, because I told her I need to see her before this baby get here.
Let me tell you something. I need a therapist. The one I had was magnificent. It wasn't a bad thing. It was just, we just couldn't, some things happened. But, okay, thank you.
Yes, we appreciate it. We appreciate all the love. Keep commenting, keep sharing, and keep watching. And we will see you guys in the next video. Bye.